Most terribly cold it was. It snowed, and was nearly quite dark, and evening, the last evening of the year. In this cold and darkness there went along the street a poor little girl, bareheaded and with naked feet. When she left home she had slippers on, it is true, but they were much too large for her feet, slippers that her mother had used till then, and the poor little girl lost them as she ran across the street to avoid two carriages that were rolling along at a terrible rate. One slipper was nowhere to be found. The other had been laid hold of by a boy, who ran off with it, saying that he could use it as a cradle when he had children of his own. So the little girl went on with her tiny naked feet, which were quite red and blue with the cold. In an old apron she carried a number of matches, and had a box with some in her hand. No one had bought anything of her the whole livelong day. No one had given her even a penny. She crept along trembling with cold and hunger, a very picture of sorrow, the poor little thing. The snowflakes fell on her long fair hair, which hung in curls on her shoulders, but she regarded them not. Lights were shining from every window, and there was a savoury smell of roast goose, for it was New Year's Eve. Yes, she remembered that. In a corner formed by two houses, one of which projected beyond the other, she seated herself down and cowered together. Her little feet she had drawn close up to her, but colder and colder she grew, and she did not dare to go home, for she had not sold any matches and could not bring a penny of money. Her father would surely beat her, and besides, it was cold enough at home, for they had nothing but the roof above them, through which the wind whistled, though the largest cracks had been stuffed with straw and rags. Her little hands were almost benumbed with the cold. Oh, a match might afford her a world of comfort, if she only dared take one out of the box, draw it against the wall and warm her fingers by it. She drew one out. Ratch! How it sputtered as it burnt! It gave a warm, bright light, like a little candle, when she held her hand over it. It was a wonderful light. It seemed really to the little girl as though she was sitting before a large iron stove, with burnished brass feet and a brass ornament. How the fire burned! How comfortable it was! The little girl stretched out her feet to warm them also, but the small flame went out, the stove vanished. She had only the remains of the burnt match in her hand. She rubbed another against the wall. It burned brightly, and where the light fell upon the wall, it became transparent like a veil. She could see into the room. A snow-white cloth was spread upon the table. Upon it was a splendid dinner service, and the roast goose was steaming famously with its stuffing of apple and dried plums. And what was still more capital to behold was that the goose hopped down from the dish and waddled along the floor with a knife and fork in its breast to the little girl. Then the match went out, and nothing but the thick, cold, damp wall was left behind. She lighted another match. Now she was sitting under the most magnificent Christmas tree. It was still larger and more decorated than the one she had seen last Christmas through the glass door at the rich merchant's. Thousands of lights were burning on the green branches, and gaily coloured pictures, such as she had seen in the shop windows, looked down upon her. The little girl stretched out her hands toward them. Then the match went out. The Christmas lights mounted higher and higher. She saw them now as bright stars in the sky. One of them fell, forming a long trail of fire. Then the little girl said, "Someone is just dead." For her old grandmother, the only person who had loved her, and who was now dead, had told her that, when a star falls, a soul ascends to God. She drew another match against the wall. It was again light, and in the brightness stood her old grandmother, so bright and radiant, so mild and with such an expression of love. The little one cried, "Grandmother, oh, take me with you! You vanish when the match burns out. You vanish like the warm stove, the splendid New Year's feast, the beautiful Christmas tree." and she rubbed the whole bundle of matches quickly against the wall, for she wanted to keep her grandmother near her, and the matches burned with such a brilliant light that it was brighter than at noonday. Never before had the grandmother been so beautiful and so tall. She took the little girl on her arm, and both flew in brightness and joy so high, so very high, and then above was neither cold nor hunger nor anxiety. They were with God. But in the corner, at the cold hour of dawn, sat the poor girl, leaning against the wall with red cheeks and smiling mouth, frozen to death on the last evening of the old year. The New Year's sun rose upon the little corpse. The child sat there stiff and cold. She had been trying to warm herself. People saw her and said she wanted to warm herself. No one imagined what beautiful things she had seen, nor in what glory she had entered with her grandmother into the new year.